Yeah, so.
Okay, I guess we're ready. Hey, everybody, is this loud, just right? Good, all right. I know I have a deep voice that goes a long way without a microphone. I'm talking all day today, so I'm on a roll. I've been teaching at Suffolk University. One of my colleagues, Professor Duke, is here too, and one of my students, Sam, is here. First semester freshman, I invited all three classes to come, one student. Sam, round of applause for Sam. So I'm Bob Cargill, president of AMA Boston, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about AMA Boston, just a little bit of our history, and then I'm going to introduce our moderator and our panelists, and they'll take it from there. Okay, so just 5 or so minutes with me, and then I'll turn it over to the real show, our panelists and our moderator. So welcome to our event tonight, all about local media, evolving local media, the East Side. Andrew and Emily and Samantha as for our moderator. And again, I'll introduce in detail in just a minute. Let me tell you about AMA Boston, and let me thank, that's still behind me, Clark Linehan, the photographer, for being here. Our ridiculously awesome photographer. We're so appreciative of you being here. If you walk right up to him and smile, he'll take your picture and you'll get a great picture. He's a star, and he'll make you a star. Thank you for being here, Clark. We really appreciate it. Thanks to the venue where we are at, the nonprofit center. For me, it was very convenient to walk here from Suffolk. It wasn't too far a walk. It's a nice night, relatively speaking. Wasn't too hot, not too cold, not rainy. If you drove in, thank you. You made the effort. You did make the effort. You're here. Thank you for making that effort to be here. We really, really appreciate it. And let me tell you just a little bit about AMA Boston, and then, like I said, I'll introduce everyone to you, and we'll get started. So AMA Boston's been around a long time. AMA Boston is the Boston chapter of the American Marketing Association, and AMA is a national group. There are hundreds, literally, of collegiate chapters in dozens of chapters. We have a national conference, we have a regional conference, and then, like I say, doing your regional chapters or state chapter. We are the Boston chapter of AMA. We're one of the largest, one of the oldest. We go back to, I think it's 1937. I sometimes say different dates because of the different dates in our history, but that's the one that sticks out. It's about 1937. We've been around, and so that has status, that has cachet. If you're a marketer, especially having it on LinkedIn, having it on your resume, but not only that, get involved. So being a volunteer, being a member, being a speaker, these folks tonight, sponsors, venues, we appreciate all of you, and we think you get much, hopefully more out of it as you put into it. So we welcome you all to join us. You're here tonight, so you're joining us for this event. But if you're not a member, we invite you to join us. And you have 1 or 2 meetings each month. One's networking, usually one's educational. Behind the scenes, we have board meetings, we plan, we strategize, and we, again, are always looking for speakers. So if you're interested in being a speaker, if you're interested in being a sponsor, in any way get involved with us, please don't hesitate to hit me up. Also, my colleagues who are here tonight, I want to introduce you to them. So reach out to me, connect with me. Love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I also have old-fashioned business cards in my pocket. Love to exchange business cards with you. Let me introduce you to our president, Emily Caputo, right here, is president-elect. She'll be president as of July 24. So not all that long from now, but then less than a year, Emily will be taking over the reins. We also have, you probably met at the front desk, Paul Heagle. He is our executive director. So that's Paul, and he's been with the organization quite a long time, maybe around 10 years or so. And he helps us out behind the scenes as executive director. I'm looking around to see who else in terms of board members. I don't think I see Victoria here tonight. I don't think Victoria is technically employed, but you've been a volunteer for us, and we really appreciate you. And so say hello, Victoria. So Kate and Brian, perfect time. Brian Mercy's on the board. He's our co-VP of social media. So like Clark is the professional photographer. And this Brian remind me, because I do a ton of social media as well. Brian, like me, we're not necessarily professional photographers, but we take a lot of pictures and video and put it out on social media. So Brian's got his camera, you can be sure he's taking a picture and it might go immediately on social media where pro photographer, you know, he takes the really high quality photos. We might have to wait not long though. He said I might get to look at. So a lot of pictures being taken tonight. So smile. And you might see stuff on social. Let me just look at my notes a little further. I think I've said everything I need to in terms of everything but introducing the panelists and the moderator. So without further ado, as they say, let me introduce first of all our moderator. This is a rock star moderator and panel. I mean, we feel very, very lucky to have three of you here tonight. So don't hesitate to share on social, take pictures, record, I'd be saying to do so. Opportunity to make news. They make news all the time. It was actually to make news with them in it. They put other people in the news, let's put them in the news. Samantha is our moderator. Samantha McGarry is EVP of story crafting at Inkhouse, correct?
Yep.
Inkhouse PR or just Inkhouse?
Inkhouse PR, yeah, PR agency.
Inkhouse, I've followed Inkhouse social media for a long time and shared a lot of their blogs, content, high quality. I know it's an outstanding agency with a great reputation, and Sam is awesome. You'll hear from her in just a few minutes. She leads Inkhouse's story crafting discipline, which anchors every client's strategy. She's a story crafter and teller at her core. She's been in communications for more than 3 decades. You're touching up to me, Sam, but you never will. I don't think. Unless I retire tomorrow and you keep going for another 20 years. She's been with Inkhouse based in the Boston office since 2010. She leads story development, strategy, and planning, and media relations. And you know, I have the rest of your bio on my content creation, mostly for tech companies. In her spare time, and this is how I know Sam, by the way. I know her from Inkhouse, but I know her more for what I'm about to tell you. She's a passionate advocate, local activist for gun violence prevention. She leads media outreach for the Mass Chapter of Mums Demand Action. I've been to several of their events supporting this cause. And that means interacting with Boston's TV and radio network and key news publications, plus helping local volunteer teams understand and engage with their local town and city news sources. That's a big deal. And that's a really good thing that you're doing, Sam. Keep up that awesome work. According to her X in Instagram bios, X, formerly known as Twitter, thanks to Elon, that's now X. Samantha is happiest when dancing or eating cheese. This is a great vibe. She's not only bilingual, she's trilingual, speaking both American English and English. I didn't know that it was it. And as well as French fluently. Samantha McGarry, who will take the stage in a minute as our moderator. Once everybody's waiting for me to. You think I see Jen Focon in the audience? She's a past board member. Right up to introduce her.
Oh, you're too sweet.
Say hello. Yeah, she's awesome. I'm trying to pay attention to who's here. Now I will introduce the stars of the show. In addition to Sam, we have Emily Cherio, and because I pay attention to her ex bio, Twitter, rhymes with Ontario, right?
It does. Thank you.
That's I had it in my head. I was
Person to get it right on the first try.
Emily Cherio, head of content, lead writer for the B-side, all 3 of my classes today. So didn't I show her a little? Maybe not all 3 of my classes, but at least 1 or 2 of them. I said all 3. Did we look at? Emily, on in class, did I show her an Instagram? We did. Yeah, you bailed me out. We did. B-side media, when I invited everybody. She's head of content, lead writer for the Boston Globe Media's newest weekday newsletter. I'm a subscriber. Before this event, the B-side, Emily is regional Emmy-nominated multimedia journalist, making news and information digestible, engaging, entertaining. Lots of memes in TikToks. Yes, that's what she specializes in. TikTok and Instagram is where I see her a lot, as well as on X. B-sides editorial brain. She's on a mission to empower young Bostonians relevant stories, information, engage and feel more connected with their community. Emily Cheerio, yay! While I'm introducing you to be here on stage, and I'm done in a minute, and it's no longer, it's about you guys, not me. Andrew Grillo, right here. So we have Samantha McGarry, Emily Cheerio, Andrew Grillo. Andrew is the general manager of Boston Globe News Publication. He is an entrepreneurial media leader, nearly a decade of experience building new revenue streams for publishing, passionate about sustaining local journalism. Andrew is excited about the opportunity to reimagine local media alongside creators to engage and inspire the next generation of Bostonians. So Sam, I'm going to give you this mic and we'll give you 2 mics and we'll let Samantha, Emily and Andrew take over. Thanks for being here, all of you. Thank you.
Everybody, thank you for being here. Can you hear me okay? Yeah. Awesome. Thanks for the introductions and everything. I'm a huge fan of local media. You can probably tell I'm not from America. Originally from England and London, but been in the States since 2000. And local media was how I kind of found my home here, both in the States, in Boston, and then in my hometown of Framingham. And in the activism work that I do, especially, local media is so key. We have events and calls to action and gun violence happening all across the state, and we work every day to involve people, to get them informed so that we can help make things better. And local media is key to that. And in Framingham, we're blessed, #blessed, with a bunch of different options, in that we have the Metro West Daily, we had the Framingham Source, but it went under. We have Framingham Patch, we have Local Access TV. And for me, it's the heart of the community. It's what holds us together, what keeps us entertained, keeps us informed. It's what challenges local officials, keeps everybody accountable, and entertains us and tells us what's going on. And so for me, local media is so important. And so I was really thrilled to get this invitation to have this discussion today, because Boston media landscape is complex and competitive, and there's lots of different voices and different ways to engage and communicate with people. So it's fantastic to meet you too and learn about Eastside. And we have a bunch of questions really to help explore the topic. And after we have a little chat, we'll get some questions that we have as well. All right. Okay, question number 1. What are some key strategies for creating sustainable local news in today's digital age, especially facing competition from larger media outlets and online platforms?
For sure. Thank you everyone for coming. At B-Side, we're really trying to go after a specific niche and audience. That audience is a reader really under 34 years old who lives in Boston. And I think with the emergence of more and more media companies and obviously the rapid dispersion of information with Google and Facebook, you really have to be speaking to an audience, right? You can't be everything to everyone. We've been really intentional, as I said, of taking a hyper-local approach to this younger audience. So understanding, being in their shoes, talking about issues like affordability, suggesting free things to do, having a head of content that represents that cohort. And so I think you see the pendulum swung to like mass scale media where you have BuzzFeed, who's now a penny stock, Vice, who's bankrupt, and you're seeing it through kind of this Substack way going back to individual and niche. So that's really the lens we look at local media through, and through that, we've been very effective. And I want to talk a little bit more about how we're distributing.
Yeah, absolutely. Never hear me for that. So obviously, I hate using this phrase, but it's all about meeting people where they are. And the reality is young people aren't reading newspapers, likely not something through a website, they're on their phone. And so meeting them where they are looks like in daily, weekday newsletter, and then also having that information be distributed across social channels, specifically vertical video like TikTok, Instagram. And our tagline when our brand guru put together our little slogan, it was a daily dose of news you actually want to hear. And I think when we first got that in my head, I think we're still trying to figure out exactly what that dose looked like. And throughout the process of refining our content distribution and figuring out who exactly our audience is, it's been really interesting to see how normally in the media world, you're told you need to stay in a lane, and either that's a things to do lane or a news lane. And we've kind of been straddling both worlds, and I don't want to say it's by accident, but you're throwing a little bit of everything at the wall and you're seeing people engage with all of it. And so I think our mindset in terms of the content distribution is, you're giving people their vegetables, but also their dessert at the same time. You don't just want collagen and food news, you actually want you want like activations and restaurant openings, and also help with something about conversations.
So, school knows the Globe has a long-standing reputation in Boston and across the state. So, how does the B-side maintain and leverage this reputation in the age of social media and influencer marketing?
Yeah, I actually think this is a really great opportunity for local media institutions to jump on this, because there's the whole influencer economy now. It's $1 billion industry, and the great thing about TikTok and Instagram is that it has democratized information, but there's also a lot of misinformation out there. Even on things as simple as, an influencer telling you where to go out to eat. I can't tell you how many times I've taken a TikToker's recommendation of where to go, and it's been absolutely horrible. So having, being backed by this storied institution, it means that our work is held to a certain standard. Like I have an editor, I get fact checked, the information that we share, at the end of the day, it's always grounded in truth and facts. And so I think we like to think of ourselves as we're the ultimate influencer that you can actually
So since your launch, I'm just curious to know kind of what achievements and how you're growing your subscribers as well.
Totally. So we're now at 30,000 subscribers, which is and we turn 1 year old in a year. So about 30,000 individuals in the year. We've been very intentional with how we're growing this audience. The biggest thing we want to do, the biggest thing we didn't want to do, tying back to that previous question, is take audiences from one product, right? Which is Globe.com or Boston.com, which is a slightly older audience, and just move them to B-side. We truly wanted to build a product for young people and get young people to subscribe. We've been really, really successful with that. Goes back to the question of achievements. We have the second highest open rate in the company at 60% for a daily email, really signaling that we're part of that habit of readers, right? That people are looking for us each day on their commute in or when they open their laptop to get that rundown of local information. And then within the organization, which is a super historic, unbelievable organization, we're the most engaged with newsletter. So 10% of our readers each day are clicking in to articles or links we're providing. So once again, a huge signal to us that we're not only growing an audience, but that audience is engaging with us daily. So those have been really, from us, of course, we want to make it a sustainable enterprise as it's becoming, but to do that, you need to have the metrics that your audience is real and will engage with those brands you bring to the conversation as well.
Totally. And we've also had, just anecdotally, I get emails from readers every week being like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, I just moved here and I went to this thing that you told me to do. And there was one woman who went to, I think, a yoga class you recommended, and she met up with 2 girls there who also happened to be B-side readers, and now they're all friends. And so anecdotally getting that feedback is always it's super validating for us too. Like there was even, a dump boat tour operator who stopped me on the street while she was giving a tour to be like, Emily, B-side? And I was like, yeah, that's me. And she goes, you help me do my job better, because the information you're giving me, I can now share it with the people who I'm working with. So it's nice to know that.
So
Celebrity status.
I did take a selfie with her. It was pretty
in line with that, sort of what's been the favorite sort of trend or video that you covered so far?
It's really like picking your favorite child. Yes, they're all fun for different reasons. I mean, I have one of my co-pilots from the hot sauce pizza video of Bardo's Pizza, which was a lot of fun. David and I tasted their hot sauce pizza challenge, where we tried the hot sauces that got progressively hotter. I took a ballet lesson with the Cambridge Symphony Orchestra. I just tried a Ninja Warrior gym and writing. Like, really the benefit of this job is I just get to be a guinea pig for a lot of fun things. I just like the personality in the video, like that's just me. And so it's just fun getting to have an opportunity to just be my authentic self when I'm making content that I love. But I also have a soft spot for all of the trending sound videos. It's always a fun challenge of how do you communicate a piece of news information in 7 seconds in this trending sound in a way that's funny and captivating. How do you? It just kind of happened. I think, when people ask me like, how do you do it? I have to really think about it, because it's just like, I think for me, I do a lot of scrolling on TikTok. I will think of, okay, I'll save a couple of sounds and oh, this could be funny, this could be funny. And then it's kind of just sitting on the news cycle to see like, okay, what stories are coming out. I mean, the low-hanging fruit is always the tea and the weather, because recently the things have been horrible and people like to pick at it. But yeah, I think it's a lot of engaging with other people's content too, to just find the right sound.
That's great.
I could take that in lots of different directions. So, I was talking before about
Community. And it's super important for local news organizations to cultivate a community and sort of engage and sort of create that kind of bond with the community. Do you feel you're doing that, and how are you doing that intentionally?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple things. There's giving people a dose of content that is tailored to them. So whether that is, we did a story recently about Girl Math and Girl Dinner and trends that people are seeing on TikTok, giving them information that both entertains them but informs them. We also have a poll feature in our newsletter that every day we'll ask our audience a question that could be in relation to a story in the newsletter. It could be a pop quiz. It could be, a controversial subject. But what's interesting is we never ask people to comment. There's like a little box that pops up after you vote, but I will get inundated with responses of people just leaving their 2 cents. And it just goes to show you, like, they're clearly engaged. And then you also see that in the way that we communicate on social and stuff. So we've definitely fostered a really nice community there.
And we also we're close to 10 free requests from people just saying like, can I work for you? I'll do it for free. I'm in this, one line of work, but like you guys are helping me work off and I align with your mission. Like, how can I help? And that is just, I mean, it's those type of messages are like kind of what keep you going. Internally we're thinking about it, we're putting this out daily, but to get that signal back, it's like definitely a breath of fresh air. And yeah, I mean, you were doing your job well. So it's good.
So influencer marketing, and what role does that play in the organization, both on the paid and the organic side of things?
Yeah, for us, like the foray into creator relationships, I think has been the most exciting thing for me. I think like this project was really about thinking forward in media, understanding how consumption is taking place, and media is really a game of cat and mouse, right? You see the trends, and it's who can execute on that trend best will win. And so as we looked, the newsletter trend was like undeniable, right? You had The Skim, you had Morning Brew. Those were both darlings since like 2018. And us launching this or concepting it in 2021 was when Instagram was blowing up its algorithm to compete with TikTok, this vertical video boom, this creator economy. And so Emily and I were really intentional on trying to figure out how do we elevate creators from the community to help serve as like editorial gas, right? These creators, the right ones are incredible. They're all so socially native. They're all so video first that it was like, can we being the Globe act as a mechanism to improve their work, bring them on to help our work be better with our guidance. And then thirdly, like then that marketing component works, right? Where they're bringing their audience to our channel. So we definitely looked at it from like an editorial first lens. How can they help us with our content? How can we help them? And as a byproduct, the marketing has been really strong. So yeah, they're much more than just a paid channel. And I think that's something that's really impressive about the Globe stature is that when reaching out to these creators, they saw it as an opportunity to work with us in the Globe. And it wasn't you know, there are financial components, but it's not a transactional relationship. They're truly part of our team.
Sure, and also we've been able to, in the same way that we hold B-Sides editorial content to a particular standard, that also goes the same for these influencers, you know.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that, how it kind of like maps to the values, the standards, the integrity of the Globe.
Totally, and so I produce most of those videos with them, so they will, every week we'll have a meeting where we'll brainstorm a couple of ideas. They produce about 1 to 2 videos for us each month. And I'll help them kind of refine the pitch a little bit. They'll write a script. You know, at the end of the day, they're not journalists. And so I'm always happy to write things or tweak things for them. But just making sure that those videos and that content is up to our editorial standard.
So growing the subscriber base, obviously 30,000 is fantastic. And what are your projections and what strategies are you thinking about to continue to grow it?
Yeah, for us, it's definitely product first. We're a lean organization that we're not just dumping channels. We're not trying to acquire lists to have impressive numbers. Like we really knew in order to resonate with, you know, ultimately advertisers, the audience had to be real. So we've been really focused on getting audience feedback, making sure the product's right. We probably went 3 or 4 months with no marketing, like just tests. We went to Boston University, worked with a handful at Northeastern, Journalism School, Boston University's Comms School, Journalism School, to get feedback from young people. Is this hitting home? Globe employees? So like definitely product, and then once we go,
Yeah, I mean, I think they're, again, just like getting that validation from readers, whether it's through emails to me or people like literally throwing themselves to work for us or engagement in social. Yeah, I think it's funny. I was actually going through today to look back at another newsletter we wrote about a year ago about the same thing that we're talking about tomorrow. And I think we had like 900 subscribers or something, which was probably mostly friends and family at that point. So and I was even speaking with somebody the other day who's been a subscriber for about 6 months, and she was like, even just looking at how the newsletter has really refined and sharpened over the last couple of months. Like the product, I think from the get-go has always been good, but it's gotten so much better in the last 6 months, I think, especially.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's interesting that you went to the students of the, you know, the top departments and journalism schools and everything. Did your ideas, but were they grossly changed by the feedback that you got, or was it with like tweaks here and there, you were on the right track, or have you learned
We
anything
were-
in that process?
Yeah, we did. We learned that there was definitely still a desire for news in it, which was like, I mean, granted, they were more common than journalism students, but I thought that was a really, important piece of feedback, that it wasn't just things to do or pop culture. They were like, we'll get at it at other places. They told us a lot that they were still reading the New York Times, or like, there was this sentiment that we want local news. I think that was hugely important for us.
Okay, cool. So how do you operate as business counterparts with the Globe while maintaining editorial independence? I was really curious about how that works.
Yeah, I mean, I think Andrew and I were talking about this today, like, since my first interview for this job, we've very much been on the same wavelength. And I think, like, I'm the one who calls the shots of what happens in the newsletter, like, Andrew has nothing to do with that at all. I think, the most feedback I get is either like, oh, it's a nice newsletter today, but I think we're definitely, we collaborate on thoughts about building B-side and ways to branch out, and like kind of marketing efforts. I think what makes our partnership so successful too is we both have a curiosity about one another's job. Like, I think there's a lot of girls who are like, oh my god, marketing, ooh, get away from me. But at the end of the day, like, we're co-pilots on this, and the only way that this can succeed is we both know how we do each other's job and what needs to happen in order.
And you have interactions with other journalists in the Globe every day as well. Do they pitch you?
So I get a lot of pitches from PR companies, but in terms of like the editorial selection, I make the decision of what's gonna be in the newsletter every day. I do have a fantastic editor, Caitlin Johnston, who's the head of Boston.com, who especially at the beginning of this was super helpful in like getting us to figure out, okay, what exactly is our niche, what exactly are like our key buckets that we wanna be in. But she's really she's the person who edits my work every day. So Andrew is not in that.
Andrew, question to you. Sponsorships and partnerships are obviously an important source of revenue. Can you share some examples of successful collaboration?
Yeah, for sure. And we monetizing B-side. So my background's in the commercial world. Started off selling ads. In the media industry, monetizing news is really difficult, which once again goes back to why you need a real audience. You need to be selling an audience, a consumer that actually can relate to a product. So B-side, we've seen a ton of success with really, organizations trying to reach a younger audience. So in the arts world, whether it be Box Center or the celebrity series, trying to get young people into the arts, we've seen huge conversion on. We also have our first influencer campaign with Mass State Treasury, which I don't know if you guys have heard, like the Find Mass Money, but they're trying to get people to claim their unclaimed property. Whether that be, an old debit card or whatever it is, but our, young people are looking to save money, to capture money. And so being able to tell a brand's message in our voice. So Emily and her team won't touch branded content, but because it's such a contextually rich environment, our branded content writers essentially mimic how Emily speaks. And so with that, you're latching on to the trust of the readers. You're providing them with sponsors that are serving them. And so the engagement, it's our highest click ad product. It's allowing us, which I'm really excited about, we're starting to get to market with more deals, is to start selling influencer deals. So we're able, those editorial talents that are on our channels, building the trust, we can essentially broker deals between brands and them. And once again, there's a lot of synergies there where some brands go creator direct and they're working exactly with a creator. But in those instances, the brand is typically underpaying the creator. They're firing out to a whole host of creators. They don't know how the content's gonna be. So what the Globe can do, or B-Side can do, is sit in between the brand and the creators, where we have this stable of super talented creators. We understand their POV, and we have great relationships with the brand, and so we can work those stories, and then have the distribution of B-Side social channel and Boston.com social channel. So it's been a lot of fun to create products and see them work.
What kind of brands or local organizations think would that fit?
I think right now, like I said, the arts and entertainment space is like, just like very turnkey, smaller, like more newsletter specific deals, but I think any brand, particularly like larger brands that are rooted in Boston that have a story to tell. We were speaking with one water brand, that operates out of the Northeast, and they really want to talk about sustainability, right? Gen Z and millennials are increasingly making their decisions based off sustainable products. So we're able to be the storytelling mechanism for brands, and I think a lot of incumbent brands that want to refresh and talk about something other than the product is a really great fit, or that have an educational element like it. You're speaking about Rockland Trust, like all these regional banks are trying to get in with a younger consumer base as conglomerate governments gobble them up. So it's anyone can tell story.
What other local resources do you guys have being consumed?
Well, I got my start in public media, so I'll always be an NPR stan. I listen to PBH and WBUR, obviously, Read the Globe and Boston Investment. Oh, I technically heard from the videos at one point, so yeah. But I, obviously with the Globe, Boston.com. But when it comes to, in terms of, other media companies who inspired us in the way that we present our content, we're both obsessed with Morning Brew. I don't think of myself as someone who's particularly interested in business news, but I read that newsletter every day. Because I think the way that they present information is really digestible and they're funny. That's kind of, the realm I always aspire to be in. And then the skin, which I think is really
Locally, obviously, a ton of Globe and Boston.com is very in that building. I think BUR does a great job. A huge inspiration for this project was a local shop out of Charlotte called the Charlotte Agenda. They really established this lean operating model, really focused on more community news and like very scrappy in their commercial strategy of like job boards, real estate listings, really like nice to place native content. And they were acquired by Axios. So they were the first acquisition that spawned Axios into the local space. As Axios has gone into different markets, they've taken different approaches, but Charlotte has really stayed true to that like super local community feel. So although I have no ties to Charlotte, that's a local outlet that we draw inspiration from.
Emily, walk me through a typical day. How's the magic happen? How does it all come together? How do you feel at the beginning of the day?
It depends on the day. So I would say the first part of my day, it's a lot of reading. I read, if I'm in the office, I try to read the newspaper from the back or at least skim it just to see like what stories are being prioritized by the paper. If I've already had some interviews done and I know what my lead story is going to be, I'll normally spend the morning writing some of the lead. Just hired a really great newsletter writer who's able to lighten the load so I can hopefully turn into some social stuff more. But around 2 p.m. I usually decide what the nerdy headlines are going to be. I'll write those up. I'll write up our one last thing section. Every now and then there's breaks at 5 p.m. after I've already submitted, and boom, I gotta rewrite the nerdy section, and I gotta change the photo. I would say I wouldn't call it a great thing personally, but the part of being in this industry is stuff breaks all the time, and that means you have to make a gut decision in that moment whether you change something or not. But I would say that it's a very focused day. And there are also days where I think I know what the lead is going to be, and then my interview has to cancel. And like the other day, I was sitting there going, what's gonna be in the newsletter tomorrow? And there's always a couple of formats that you can go back on, and it's always important to have layups. Like, not every lead has to be super, sourced and reported, like, it's okay to lean on an aggregated piece from time to time, because, it's one person writing it, like, we don't burn out. So always having those layups in place.
I get it. I mean, I get the news breaks and you have to pivot. Yeah.
Right, someone told me one time, they were like, she used to work on a daily TV show, and she was like, working in daily news is a grind. And I didn't understand that until I started doing it. And one of those things where you're just in the trench the whole time, and you can send out a newsletter one day and go, that wasn't my best, but it doesn't matter, you move one to write tomorrow, you just can't hold on things, you just keep moving forward.
My husband has absolutely no concept of what PR is. Often says to me, talking about the 4 days before the pandemic, he'd be like, I don't understand why you can't, go into the office, say at 7 and come home at 4. And I said, you don't understand. I only ever have truly have control of maybe 50% of my day at that, because the world in which we live is complex and changing. It's the nature of the beast. That's why we do it, right? Right. And that's what's up. Speaking of PR, are you open to being pitched?
Oh my god, I love being pitched. Yeah. I would say like Emily.Cherio@globe.com. Like, hit me up whenever. I may not always respond to the email, but I'm all ears.
Yeah.
I think if I haven't responded to you after the 4th email, you don't send it. But yeah, I think the more, I guess, specific that you are in your pitch, so if you're just telling me about an activation, or I think sometimes what I get turned off by is, I think B-side is very clear about who our audience is, and if you're pitching a story for an opening that's 50 miles outside of Boston that people in their 60s will like, and you're kind of like, I'm affected, obviously. So doing a little bit of research. No, thanks.
And it's the best part.
Yes.
All right. So as I don't go rest of that. How are you managing being entrepreneurs and getting the buy-in and respect and deserve with your sort of
I think it's super, super helpful to be coming from the Globe, right? It's such a respected institution that has great talent within it. So we have all the tailwinds of marketing, a great sales department, amazing newsroom for Emily to learn from and collaborate with. So I think coming from within the Globe is a huge advantage. And then I think, more like personally on the operator level, just we like really believe in what we're doing. And when you like are committed to what you're doing and you're getting positive feedback back, it becomes easier to take risks, to try new things, and have kind of the confidence to take shots. So far so good. We'll see.
Yeah, I think having all this creative control at 27 is a little scary sometimes. And I think when I first stepped into the role, I went from working for somebody else to having somebody now reporting to me, and now having to conceptualize what this product looks like every day. And I think intuitively, you have a gut feeling of what works and what doesn't, but I now have an editor who has all this incredible experience and, feeling comfortable and confident and trusting my own intuition. That's been a journey and something where a year or so into the job, I feel much better at. But yeah, I think just believing in what we're doing. And, it used to be where I would write an email to a source to try to get an interview, I'm with B-side, with Boston Globe Media, so because no one really knew. And now people are like, oh, yeah, B-side. And so, nothing happens overnight, and it's been a slow process, but at the same time, it's all this 1 year has felt like dog years.
Time for last question. Do you have mentors?
Totally. Yeah, I think I was in the agency world before the Globe. I've been at the Globe 7 years, which is crazy. And the agency world I love, but it was a grind. And I was kind of looked up and there were some people in the building that were, great managers and whatnot, but you hear people always talk about mentorship, and from the moment I've stepped into the Globe, it's been mentor after mentor after mentor, which is super special. But our chief commercial officer, Caitlin Salmonport, he came from the New York City media world, was a media entrepreneur there, and has like completely overhauled how we think about doing business and sponsorship business at the Globe. And so he was a huge, like a godfather in launching this, of getting, senior leadership really turned on to what this could mean from an audience perspective and a revenue perspective. So we, at the moment.
So my editor has been great of just holding my feet to the fire and making sure that, just holding my work to a high standard every day. And I feel like I've taken leaps and bounds from a year ago in terms of my abilities as a reporter and writer. But before this job, I was a producer at GBH, and my executive producer of the studio, I was in Linda Pollock, who her history is mostly in broadcast journalism. She's the one that kind of taught me everything I know, and I think in a lot of ways, my background in broadcast journalism and writing for TV and writing for video, I like just writing conversationally it's what I know, and it suits this product really well. She reads the side every day too. Like, today, or maybe you could have done something like this differently. But yeah, she taught me what I know.
That's awesome.
I think unless there's anything else you guys want to do, okay? And it's the room now to see if anybody has any questions, Andrew.
Hi there, I'm Miriam, big B-side fan, so very excited to hear from you. I'm curious, was there a point or a couple points where that really, changed the growth trajectory, or was it really just grinding, yeah?
It's a super good question, and
Mhm.
a lot of different points, and we didn't really get into it, but it started off like very organic, right?
Mhm.
Like pressure testing the product, word of mouth. But then we started, the first big kind of leap we did, we started doing a lot more local giveaways.
Mhm.
So just pairing with organizations that shared our audience. So whether it's cycling studio, restaurant, we've gotten to a really regular cadence with that, Boston Calling, some really big ones. So that was like, we saw that uptick and doubled down there. And then the biggest one I would say is on the paid media front, we were running like more kind of generic templated targeted campaigns, and we switched to like trending sounds on TikTok and Instagram, explaining why someone reads the B-side daily. And when we leaned into video, like we were editorially on the marketing side, our cost per acquisition like went way down, and like we then felt comfortable investing more in it. And that's been definitely the biggest spike. But it's interesting with those paid campaigns because we're a local product, right? We have no aspirations of working with someone across the country, let alone even Southern New Hampshire. So we've still been really disciplined in the targeting of those campaigns and making sure it's a younger audience, which that format favors. Like that was a big learning. Like you need to be speaking to your audience with your creative, and way back was like, how can you optimize a banner ad, which my POV is like hardly, but like how do you optimize a paid ad like on social, like a lot. And so that was a huge learning.
Hi, my name is Oksana. Thank you for sharing your experience with us. I have a question. If you compare content marketing and influence marketing, what do you believe in more as a tool for local media? Content marketing versus influence marketing.
Yeah, I think we're like at this like convergence of that, right? Where like good influencer marketing and kind of what we've been doing of bringing in the creators to work with us editorially, they are literally creating our content, with Emily's help, and that serves as the marketing mechanism. So I'd say we pretty much like, intersected those two things.
Thank you.
good influencer marketing is good content.
Exactly,
no,
exactly, and it shouldn't be in like bad influencer marketing, which Ellen said is like. This is literally the best newsletter I've ever read, and like, you know, like it.
This is amazing, yeah.
You guys have any tips to, I guess, start working with influencers and use them and best utilize them within our community, in our district?
Yeah, I would say like. Listen a lot to them, like I was, we had this hunch it would work, but. One thing, and it's kind of, I think maybe from like the more sales background, but like. We definitely didn't wanna like to like cram them in a corner or a hole to do something for us, like how can we lift them up? And I think people. Or like more so now than ever, especially in that generation where it is such a hustle economy, are like. Very open ears to working, it just needs, you need to find the alignment in the value exchange, so I don't know if you have an example of kind of what.
How about people that aren't necessarily influencers that maybe wanna be or that are influential in a way on social media? How do we maybe, any advice on maybe how to start working with them, start the conversation and see if they're interested maybe in promoting some of what we're doing, things like that?
I think a lot of it was just like asking, you know, like, in terms of like, we were doing our research and we should be in our first, you know, iteration of this. We just watched a lot of content and we were like, oh, this person could be good, but they're actually not that funny, or this person's really good at this niche. And so I think you kind of have to do your market research a little bit, and then like really figure out what do you want to get out of this and how do you think this person can leverage it? Because also like there are people who are maybe have big followings but aren't necessarily like great on video, or so, and if your goal is to optimize vertical video, get someone who's really great on camera and can do that themselves. Which is, you know, at the end of the day, even though my hand isn't in the pot in terms of the conceptualizing, like they film it, they shoot it, they execute it, like I don't have to touch that part of it.
And then the other thing I would say is make sure on your part, like you're impressive back to them, right? It's a courtship, like it's a value exchange. So if your business isn't present on social and you're sitting, like you need to slide into their DMs, they need to click on your profile, be like, oh, this is interesting. The wheels start turning on their end. So I think it starts with you yourself being very active, or your business being active.
Thanks.
I'm Brian, question especially for students who are in the audience. Do you think we'll see a wave of positions that are basically content curators, kind of like, you know, you said they're just exposing themselves to all this content? Could you see a wave of that rising mainstream?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure the college in Ireland now has, you can get a BA in influencing. So, whether that comes to the US or not, I don't know, but I think there's definitely, that's already happening. I think there's a lot of companies that are hiring content creators who are maybe, you know, aren't influencers in the traditional sense, but it's like, you know, make quippy videos for us that will get eyeballs and clicks. So, I think it's just like a new way of marketing at the end of the day.
And I think you're gonna see that on the brand side. I think you're gonna see people representing brands looking very similar to what B-Side is doing, of looking around saying, who represents our brand? How can we storytell with them? How can we put our resources towards making this, you know, 18-year-old Gen Zers content by the premiere? And that's like starting to happen a bit.
And also on the agency side as well. You know, maybe not right now, looking where the market's at, but there was a time earlier this year where agencies were on the hunt for those kind of people who would think and create in that way on behalf of clients. And understand the medium better than others. And so that's what I'm saying.
I mean, a lot of that PR events I'm invited to when I'm there. They're probably higher up on the media list than I am in one cases.
This is very talk, kind of video, pictures from the majority on social. So I'm old enough to be, to say I'm a long time Boston Globe reader, but not so much the last, let's say 10, 15 years being typical. I stopped subscribing to the paper version and look at Boston.com all the time. Embraced social media early on. So, grew up with the media, now it's modern media, digital media. Subscribe to you guys, I told you that even before tonight's event. Do you see, because I could foresee something like B-side and not taking over, but isn't it ironic you work for this huge institution with this amazing reputation for traditional publishing and news delivery? You're at the infancy of what you're providing, but you see it becoming bigger and your, and even the next 5-10 years, becoming the main. Is that possible? Is that a goal? Do you know where I'm going with this?
Oh, I do. Yeah. No, I think the goal here, we do something very different than the Globe, right? And we're journalists and we tell the facts and we're, you know, very buttoned up, but and it's one of the kind of dilemmas or difficulties in local media that you're seeing these more like lifestyle local publications work, but they're not producing the hard-hitting journalism or like the accountability work that local towns and cities need. So I think it will always be a compliment. I guess I think we're very complimentary in that ideally our profits can be used to grow B-side, but also to grow and sustain local journalism as well.
Could the, well, if you don't mind me asking, so could they learn from how you're delivering the news, the tone of voice, because you're targeting, you know, most of the people way younger than me.
Yeah.
You're targeting them, not me.
I mean, candidly, we've had some people internally try to mimic some of our styles in the videos that have been who have disclosed that to me. And so clearly our impact is, what we're doing on social is having impact.
Yeah, on your approach.
Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
happy medium.
Yeah, and I think it's also an example too of. I think sometimes because when you're on TikTok, you see a lot of people making really good content. It looks really easy to make. And my job is to make it look easy, but it's not easy. And so when people are like, how did you do that? Or how come I can't do that? Like, it is a skill set. And I think it's something that more journalists are having to become this multimedia journalist. You're no longer just a print person or an audio person. Like, you have to be a jack of all trades. And if you don't know how to make a vertical video, I think you're in trouble. Off the record.
Could there ever be a scenario where you would break news for the Globe or the news would be broken through these days?
Oh, I think so. I think I have a couple of tips that I have a couple of tips where we're not quite there yet, but it's definitely possible for sure. But is it a goal?
Personal goal, you want to scoop the Globe?
Well, if I want to scoop the Globe, I think a lot of the things that I like to remind myself as much as I want to be everywhere all at once, I'm one person. And so a lot of these, like the Metro team, they're able to scoop things, so they're team 10. And they're just in charge of writing a piece. I have to write a whole entire newsletter and do stuff on social. And so even though I have my own ambitions, like reminding myself of the reality of things. But yes, I would like to scoop the goal.
Hi, I'm Laura. Thanks for your input. Just to piggyback on this whole Nightcrawler theme we have going on, you said you have people kind of throwing themselves to be a part of it. What if you had minions and looped these people that want to work for free or be a part of the whole localization model into your model, and then it was kind of a feedback loop?
Totally, I think we really have aspirations to go into the in real life space to be a lot more in person. And I think with that, you need ambassadors. And I think that model, like whenever we make note to have a dialogue with all of these people and say, we don't have a position now, but like, thank you so much. And because as you think about scaling this and like creating sub communities, these passionate people could run a book club for you. They could, and the book club is like top of mind. I think that will be one of the first ones where you have these people, and it's probably partially compensated, right? Where it's like, they're like a gig worker for the B-side, and can help ambassador, be an
Yeah,
ambassador.
so it would be in a way empowering the community, where content is kind of being created and it's not just being, you know, pulled out from what's happening, at random.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hey, I'm Lisa. This has been really great. I'm a loyal B-side reader. I wake up, wipe my eyes in bed. reading it. So, I'm actually curious a little bit more about the origin story. Was this something that the Globe sort of wanted to, sort of reach younger audience, or was this completely Emily? Did you pitch it to the Globe, or was it something you wanted to do on your own?
This existed long before I was here. Yeah, the idea of this.
so it was the Globe, which is really great, it has this biannual innovation day or week. And so this idea came out of that. It was as I mentioned, how Axios had acquired that local publication out of Charlotte. There was this wave in local newsletters. And it was venture backed. So Axios was going from 6 to 24 markets. And then this other publication called 6 AM City, which had just raised $5 million and was going from 6 to 24 as well. So when we saw that, it signaled not only like, is this local newsletter thing a thing, but they're coming into Boston. And so through Innovation Day was the opportunity for me to pitch to the organization that this was a fruitful opportunity that actually had a business model behind it. And so with that, the concept won, and then it was like a whole funding process, which like a huge kudos to the senior leadership team for seeing vision and understanding like market dynamics and going for it. And then that was just like an idea with like, it was like a 7-slide presentation with some like pretty bad mock-ups called Boston Local.
Yeah.
And then, yes, Emily hated the name.
Share that in the interview process, obviously.
But then Emily came on board and like took the concept, and we knew, you know, like I said, we knew that it had to involve creators and had to be like, what is the next iteration of a newsletter? Because newsletters have been around or popular for, 7 years. And then let's target an audience that's, needed for the Globe. So I think it's been, as we talked about, like learnings for the Globe, I think it has been a really great case study in audience development and like niche media and how that can actually, fill a room with people, organizations like that. So that was in October of 2021. It was pitched. It went live October of 2022, and then this is going to be 1 year of operating.
What kind of market research do you do as in not just clicks and views, not internal, technology, but surveys or focus groups? Do you do any of that, or is it probably like a Globe maybe? Or?
Yeah, so I would say every day in our newsletter, we do polls. Granted, we're not always surveying demographics, but we do ask a lot of questions that I think give us insight into what people are thinking, how people use transit, how people, you live in the Boston area. But when I believe when people sign up, there is kind of this preliminary survey where we get a sense of, do you want to hear politics, sports? It's a nice little gut check for us of like, okay, are we giving people the thing that they actually want?
Thank you so much for sharing your story. My name is Ashley. I'm curious about, so I know that you've been a year working with Boston Globe. So what would be, do you have a vision, or what would be your next step that you have in mind for this service? So right now you're focusing on local news, but is there any idea that you want to expand this service to another level?
Yeah, I mean, I think my thought on local, there's a Malcolm Gladwell thing. He didn't come up with it, but it's like the people at Pepsi were trying to perfect the perfect Pepsi. Do we want it sweeter? Do we want it less sweet? More caffeine, less caffeine? And they looked at the data, you couldn't draw any inference, it was everywhere. And so then this guy that was working on the problem went to work at a pasta sauce company and like leaned into the idea that like, there's gonna be a subset that wants it garlicky, there's gonna be a subset that wants it spicy. With B-side, we're giving local to a sub 34-year-old that lives in Boston, that 65% of the time is female. Like, I would love to expand into more niches, like one for outdoor, like adventuring, one, I mean, very niche, but it could be like a little one just for food, it could be one for sports, like sports is next, like that's the answer, like sports and sports betting, we're gonna skew male, and we're going to like lean into betting, and we're going to, you know, be able to get people to watch sports live, like, so it's picking different subsets and then having a lot of different locals, because everyone wants to look at different things.
So, given you shared that, I thought, what a great idea. Do you have competition, or do you worry about competition in this space? You just shared something really possible. And you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I'm doing what you're doing locally here, or that you want to talk about, or elsewhere that, because you said you were learning from, you went to Charlotte and down there.
I mean, it's interesting, there's Axios Boston, there's Boss Today, which is 6 AM City's iteration of, you know, the Boston newsletter. And I actually feel like, and there's WBUR, so I would say those are the 3 main newsletters, like I read those every morning. Do I think that they're competing with our audience? Not necessarily, granted, I don't have those data points, but I feel like our product feels very different from all of theirs. It's much voicier, it has a much more balanced content distribution of things to do, events, activation, and news. I think also like I wouldn't say we lean into good news, but we make a concerted effort to not include things like crime or national news, or like really giving people things that have some utility, and like we use the phrase surprise and delight a lot, especially for a one last thing section. So I remember there was a slide you had of like the white space in the market. Or it's just like, you know, this publication, it leans into hard news and has no voice. This publication leans into hard news but has a little voice. This publication is really soft and has no voice. And it's like, okay, well, what if we struck a balance and how to watch this? And that's where I think we don't really have someone who's doing what we're doing.
I love the idea of birds, you know,
Yeah.
entertainment, sports, outdoors, really explode.
Yeah, and then what's interesting is then you can cross promote, right?
Yeah.
If you have those and then they're learning with each other. So,
What about the type of local ones, people, the community?
yeah, that's been discussed. That one, I think can still work. I think that it's been seen to work more on like a subscriber model. But I think, yeah, cherry picking, you know, really invested communities can work as well.
And then last question, oh, one more.
So earlier you mentioned, that your audience is more interested in news, on top of the other content that you provide. Would you say that you refer back to the Boston Globe as a resource for news, or are there news outlets that you guys like to refer to?
Yeah, I mean, I would say if we have the opportunity to link the story out to the Globe or Boston.com, we will do that 9 out of 10 times. But there are also plenty of times where news breaks somewhere else, and I'm like, well, the Globe's gonna write about this tomorrow, but I want it in tomorrow's newsletter, so it needs to be NBC 10, or it needs to be CBB. Like at the end of the day, all of these organizations, are often talking about the same exact thing, and so I'll usually, whoever says it first, maybe I'll put that in the newsletter, but then if it pops up in the Globe or BDC within time, I'll add it in there.
I think we're done. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrew.
That's awesome.